Logging at Mulobezi, Zambia. In the southwestern part of Zambia, a unique logging operation is involved with a special tree, the so-called Rhodesian teak. It is a very expensive type of wood, much sought for wood paneling, luxury yachts, etc. Originally, the wood was exported to South Africa, but after independence, President Kaunda stopped the export and the wood was made into creosoted railroad ties. A 100-mile rail line starting at Livingstone provides access to the logging area and sawmill. The train is supposed to run once a week, but the schedule is seldom kept. Passengers carried without charge wait sometimes for days, making small fires to warm against the morning chill. The locomotives, pre-20th century manufacture, are powered by offcuts from the sawmill. The natives wanting to travel are piled helter-skelter into open freight cars. The Western visitor will be accommodated in 1890 vintage Pullman cars hooked to the end of the train to avoid the sparks and smoke from the engine. A few native villages are scattered along the 100-mile long route, with the train proceeding at about 10 miles per hour. The tracks are laid on the Kalahari sands, anywhere from 20 to 80 feet deep, without any ballast, so the engine derails here and there. Then it is lifted back to the track by using 30-ton jacks. Approaching the sawmill site, one sees a confusion of apparently unorganized activities, with parts of equipment and junk lying around. There appears to be no proper organization for the operation, and children wander around at will. There is a lot of sand and dirt everywhere. The railroad ties made by the mill from the Rhodesian teak and creosoted are dumped here and there, with an old engine, empty drums, and broken down equipment decorating the scenery. The sawmill equipment is outdated, with huge circular saws squaring off the logs, each saw blade cutting about half an inch of the valuable wood. The men working at the saws are mostly barefoot, with no protective equipment, and the floppy, rag clothing invites deadly accidents. In the locomotive yard, several ancient engines are parked to be dismantled for parts. Due to lack of equipment, most any work is done by manual labor, slow and dangerous, similar to operations in Europe in the early part of the 19th century. The photo shows more of the old discarded equipment lying around. There is no apparent cleanup effort anywhere, rather the passing of time adds to the mess already existing. The engine I am standing on has been restored by a few Scottish persons with remarkable old-time skills. But time and the effect of great amounts of sand lying and drifting around makes constant repairs necessary. A remarkable operation involves the truing up of the driving wheels of the engines, as sand on the tracks makes them soon out of round, causing excessive wear on the track and rough rolling due to vibration. Privileged guests may travel over part of the track by using a makeshift track car with an old gasoline engine. The trip allows a leisurely look at the countryside, which appears to be very much the same for miles. Overloading the car and the worn-out engine will slow travel practically to a standstill on any noticeable grade. Then the solution is to get out, push and run to reach the desired location. A good exercise, but somewhat hard in the semi-desert hot climate. At the logging area, an unusually large Rhodesian teak is shown. The mature trees are spaced about 30 to 40 yards apart, and the stands are decreasing. There is a remarkable ecological impact that explains the situation. With the arrival of a large number of visitors to Victoria Falls, the natives have been catching numerous pythons, the skins made into wallets and similar items. The pythons are the main predators controlling the population of rats, which depend heavily on eating the seeds of the teaks. With fewer pythons, there are more rats, hence a decreasing number of sprouting teaks. Few of the teaks are straight, and on the average yield wood for a single railroad tie only. The chains of the saws are dulled rapidly due to the prevalent sand, and the heavy, thorny bush makes cutting difficult. Productivity is very low, but in a socialist economy like Zambia, that does not matter much. The young person shown here may well be one of the helpers employed, though what he could do is a puzzle. Of course, he is barefoot, with no protective equipment, and the thorns can make nasty wounds. There was no medical assistance at the plant. The logs are skidded to sites where they may be loaded on a truck or directly to a small gauge rail cars. The sandy conditions are very hard on the equipment, and proper maintenance is not practiced. As long as anything runs, it must be all right. The photo shows clearly the quality of the narrow gauge rail line laid without ballast on the Kalahari sands. Due to the poor stands of teak, the rails will be picked up and relayed at another site after a short period, generally less than a month. Several of the logs lying around are teak, but not suitable for railroad ties, so are left there. The width of the cleared strip illustrates the ecological impact of the operation. The operator of the loader is an African and, as usual, poorly trained. In this instance, the trailer was overloaded and the truck with worn tires simply broke down, necessitating unloading, then loading again. Delays like that are normal. Time means but little, costs will escalate accordingly. The light rail lines are picked up and taken to another logging operation. All the heavy work is done by manual labor. The workers barefoot, carrying the rails to a distance of 50 yards or more. There is little, if any, drinking water available at the work site. Man on the left, with worn shoes, is the African foreman supervising the work. The metal railroad ties used here are very old, bent, and out of shape, and should have been scrapped a long time ago. But that makes no difference. If they could be used, they will be reused with no time limit, without any consideration for a reasonable application. More hard, barefoot work presents a scene which has to be seen to be believed. As the teak stands become greatly depleted, the operation will be still carried on. There is no alternate useful resource for exploitation in the area, and will not be for centuries ahead. With the visit completed to Mulobezi, the train returns to Livingstone and the usual scene at the station. One leaves with the knowledge that Africa will be there forever, but a meaningful change for the common people is not likely for a very long time ahead.